Hi guys, I just wanted to come on and do a little introduction that was separate from the general introduction. Um, we are about to do excuse me, 3 double crochet cluster granny square. This is typically the granny square people think of when they think of a granny square. Um, in the orange and white blanket, I'm going to end up doing 2 different types of granny squares, which you'll see I'll do an intro for the next one as well. But this is just what it looks like when it is completed. Um, it's it's very simple. You'll see as we go in the next little video. I do want to take a moment and just say there's a couple places where I am stumbling over my words in the video, or I replace words with the one I mean and then I go back and I correct it. Part of that has to do with my neurological illness that I've kind of mentioned a couple times. Um, I have a chronic illness, and part of it is that sometimes I don't say the word I intend to say, or I can't find the word I'm looking for. So I do apologize, but it's part of who I am, and at least at the moment. And I believe in being real and honest and vulnerable, and that means sharing that part of me. So you will see that there are times that that happens. I'm going to try to go back and see if I can put writing over those specific places to have what I mean to say. Um, we'll see how that goes. Just because it's, I don't know. I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying, but at the same time, um, it's just a part of my life, and we deal with it each day as we come. Now, I do want to say about this granny square. This is kind of like this is a very standard granny square, but this is more of a cluster granny square. Um, and it is common. The other thing is, and I tell you this in the tutorial video, but I don't weave my ends in until the very end when I actually have it in the blanket and everything. So you'll see these pop out in my blanket. It's not that I've forgotten, it's just that I try to weave them in all at one time. So I just wanted to let you know that. And um, yeah, so this is the granny square, the cluster granny square, and I hope you enjoy this tutorial. All right, guys, we're back. And so just as I was explaining at the end of the last part of the introduction, I do use a J hook with a 6.0 millimeter, and I think you can see that a little bit better there. And it, or maybe right there is a little better. I don't know. But I am using the Yarnus hooks, and like I said, they're off of Amazon is where I get mine, and they're really good for beginners and also just kind of that comfort feeling of a hook. And so for me, I like using these. Also, I was talking about stitch markers. Now, there's 2 kinds. Um, one's like this, and one's like you'll see here in just a second. As you can see, this one is orange, or at least I hope you can see this is orange. Maybe on my white skin it'll show a little better. Um, but it is orange. And then sometimes if I want to make sure that I really do know what size hook I'm using, I will take one of my little round um, letter beads that I use for friendship bracelets that I make, and I will put the letter on there. So like this one has a J and an orange, so, and I just throw that into the bag, and you'll see the one I do have in there in just a minute. Now, the other thing is I need to apologize. It is the Spoony Stitcher who is the lady who suggested these bags. These bags are awesome. I love them. They come in all different sizes. I like the big ones for all of my projects, but I like the other sizes for a bunch of different things. One of the things I like to do is, I make purses, so I have one little bag that has kind of like my general everyday stuff, including my push pins, which I use to for my linings on my purses, my little catch-all. So, and these little clear ones with the lids like this is an Aldi's find. Or not Aldi's, this is Dollar Tree. Dollar Tree is your friend. There's a bunch of containers and a bunch of storage things that makes the Dollar Tree your friend. These came in a pack of 10 for $1, or maybe $1.25 now. Y'all, you can't beat the price, and they're great for all the different holdings. If you can kind of see, I've got 2 or 3 of my yarn hooks in here. I've got my numbers because I also use these on my stitch markers to do for projects that need you to count the rows. These are really great for that. I've got my big stitch markers in there, and so yeah, it's just great kind of little catch-all box. Then I have a smaller bag, which I'll show you in a minute. I've got a couple of hooks that I use. I've got some additional needles, and I've got my measuring tape for different projects that I need at different times. Then I have my smaller bag. Oops, I meant to have that out of here for a totally different purpose. Then I've got all of my like active working numbers, so I can just pull them out real quick. And then I have a stitch marker that I like to use in general. And I also have a bunch of my little needles I use because I also have a tapestry needle in here or two. And then I have my favorite yarn needles. So I keep that all real close to me and real quick and easy to get out. I'm going to leave the boxes out, the box out here in case I decide I need it. I don't think I do, but always better to have it. So then you have the big bag, right? And I have really big balls of yarn right now, so you obviously have a really big bag. This is, I think, the size B4 bag, which is the largest size that they have. I don't remember the name of the company, but I will put the link in the description down below. Okay, so I told you I've got my UT orange ball. I've got my black ball that is going to be my joining. And I have my white. Now I have more white out there. I just wanted to start with this one because I wanted to use this one up. So as you can see, we're starting with a smaller ball of white. I also, in this particular bag, I put this orange stitch marker. This is the one I actually had in there. I like the plastic ones, especially for granny squares, because you're going to have openings that are great to put that in there. If you do need to have a count stitch for your rows, this is really great. It too can fit the bead numbers on there. I usually, if I have a project where I really need to count, I usually prefer these because you get more. But sometimes I will use this one to put on my blanket and then or whatever I'm working on, and then I will put the number and the letter thing here, just as a counter. I feel like it works a whole lot better than say some of the counters that we receive in other places. And then I love these scissors. These scissors actually came with my crochet hooks. This is one pair. I have another pair, and you'll see these a lot throughout the time. Whoever invented these little scissors for yarn is awesome because, as anyone knows, you only use yarn scissors for yarn. Yarn really tears up your scissors, and I love these little things. They're great. But you put all of this in this big bag, this big puzzle bag, and it keeps your project together, and you don't have to search for anything, and you have what you need when you need it. So it's always good to just have that nearby. Now, for this set, I am going to do a 3-tiered granny cluster granny square, because this is called the 3 double crochet cluster granny square. It's kind of standard. It's the one that we all make. It's the one that you see in my other granny square blanket, and we are going to start with an orange center. Now, in this one, unlike the other ones that you saw in my blue, brown, and gray blanket, is that I use 3 separate colors on each square. On this one, I'm going to be using orange, white, orange to do the 3 tiers. So we will have an orange center, a white middle, and an orange outer layer. So time to get started. So we're going to pull wherever my center is, and I can't find it, so I'm just going to pull a bunch of it down, and here we go. We got yarn. So the first thing you're going to do, because I am going to make a chain start to my granny square, which is usually the easier of the two. You could do a magic circle, and I'll show you that later at a different time. But for what I'm doing right now, I did a chain center, so on the other one, and I'm going to do it on this one as well. So as you can see, I made a pretty simple loop around my fingers, put the yarn under, and pulled through. Now we've got the start of our chain, right? And then you slip, pull, stitch, pull that down. Now, you're going to make a chain, you yarn over one time, pull through, there's your chain. Now, it will feel a little awkward at first as you try to figure out how to hold your hook, as you figure out what works for you in holding your yarn. This is what works for me. And again, there's different ways of doing it. I know some people have tension rings. I know some people hold their yarn like this. You know, there's several different ways. But for me, what has always worked is I come through here, around, and over, except I usually don't do it that much. So you kind of see this, and it gives me the perfect tension for me. So on this granny square, you're going to chain 4 because we're going to do a 3 double crochet, or a square, which is going to have 4 clusters. So you chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can, in a chain, when you're counting, you look at for this little bump, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you're going to hold this. This is, I'm trying to show you how to circle your chain back to make a loop. And part of a good way to do that is to hold the little knot or slip knot that you made in between your thumb and your forefinger. Make sure that you pull on this. Sorry about the burp, y'all. Pull this down to kind of make sure it's tight. Then you're going to slip into the bottom of the chain. So you see how this little space right here, and it's kind of like you got 2 over here. That's where you're going to go. You're going to slip where you have these 2 little pieces on top and the one on the bottom, because you're going to have a more secure chain slip stitch that way. And you're going to go through both the first and the second chain, the first and the last chain technically. And so that creates a slip stitch. And now you're going to pull that down and you're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. This is going to count as your first double crochet. And the reason it counts as your first double crochet is because of the height. So to make a double crochet, you yarn over, you go into the circle, and I hope you can see that. You see this little circle right here that I kind of can put my nail through? That's where you're going to go. So you're going to yarn over into the circle. You're going to yarn over, or just slide over, but your yarn is going to be over your hook. You're going to pull it up through the circle. Now you have 3 loops, 1, 2, 3 on your hook. You're going to yarn over. So now you got 4. You're going to pull through the first 2. Pull that little tight, yarn over, and pull through. And now you've got technically 2 double crochets right there. So now you're going to do it again. You yarn over into the circle, yarn over, pull through, yarn over. You got your 4 loops, yarn over and pull through 2. Now you got 2, yarn over and pull through 2. And now you've got 3. 1, 2, 3 double crochets. This is your 3 double crochet cluster. And we are going to be making 4 of those. So how do we do that? Well, this is your first one. Now, because we're going to form a corner, you're going to do 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. Or at least for me, in this time, I'm doing 3 chains. I say that because you could do 4 chains, you could do 2 chains. It just depends on what kind of granny square you're making. But we're going to kind of stick with the 3 and 3 pattern here, at least as we're doing a 3 double crochet cluster granny square. So you have your 3 chains here. You're gonna again make sure you have your tension good, but you're gonna yarn over, go into the circle, yarn over, yarn over. We got 4, yarn over. We got 2, yarn over, pull through. We got one, and we've got our next double crochet. And so you're going to do that again 2 more times. Here we go. There's our second 3 double crochet cluster. And you'll hear cluster term used a lot. That usually just means however many of whatever you're talking about. Single crochet, double crochet, treble crochet, half double crochet. However many of them in a row you're doing between whatever kind of gap you're doing. So then you chain another 3 to create your next corner, and you're going to go into the circle, and we're going to create another 3 double crochet cluster. Oh, I should take my time and explain that I am using American or US terminology for crochet. There are US terms and there are UK terms, and it's really important when it comes to patterns you learn whether or not you are doing UK or double or US, because I will show you later at some point I will show you a project where I thought I was using American terms, and turns out I was using UK terms. And in using UK terms, the koala that I was amagiri, I was trying to, there we go, the word, I said it. I was trying to crochet went from looking like a koala to looking like a pill, as we like to say, between me and my best friend. And so we call it the koala pill. But I will show you that at some point. Okay. And then we're going to chain 3. Then we're going to double crochet 3 in here for another cluster. 1, 2. Trying to make sure you guys can see this. 3. So now we have our 3 double crochet clusters in our little hole. We have our 3 really sharp corners, and now we're going to make one more chain 3 section for our 4th corner. Now, to complete our 4th corner, we're going to slip stitch in the top of the chain 3. So here's our chain 3, right? 1, 2, 3. So we're going to insert here. And here again, you want to have 1 on the bottom and kind of 2 on the top. See 1, 2 of the strands? And so you want to have that, and then you're going to pull yarn over and pull through both of the 2 chains. Boop. And now you have your completed row, okay? Or round, depending on what book or pattern you're reading. But there we go. We have our first round of our granny square. Now, in this granny square, we do 2 rows of each color. I like to call them rows. So we're going to, so in order to keep this color, but start the beginning of the next row, what you're going to do is you're going to chain 3, and then you're going to double crochet into the same stitch. So in other words, you're going to go into this chain here and into this chain as one. So you're going to yarn over, because we're double crocheting into the same stitch, and we're going to end up doing this 2 times, and then you're going to yarn over, pull through. See, now we got our 3, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, we got 1 loop. I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it real slow. So I yarned over, I went through this first chain, I went into the second chain, I yarned over, I pulled through both of the chains, had to pull some more yarn to make it a little easier. I yarned over, so now we got our 4 loops, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So now we've got the start of a 3 double crochet cluster, right? We got our 3 double crochets in a cluster. Now, what do? So in my pattern, sometimes you don't have to chain in a granny square pattern, but for this particular pattern, I chose to. And so again, crochet in granny squares is a little bit about what you want to do and what look you're going for. You could just straight do another three double crochet cluster into this space, but I like to create the gap a little bit for this one to, because I am using a bigger hook, make it more open, make it more loose, and it's really good for that. So I chain one, so we got our chain one here, because I chain one over the three double crochet cluster. Now I'm going to just start calling it a cluster so I don't have to say the full mouthful every time. Just know that if I say cluster at this point, it means the three double crochet cluster. Um, so you yarn over and do another three double crochet cluster or cluster here. 2, 3. Now you're going to create another corners, and since we decided to do chain 3 for the corner, we're going to chain 3 here. 1, 2, 3. And I'm trying to talk as fast as my hands go. You're going to yarn over, do another cluster. 1, 2, and 3. Got our corner. So now we've come to another cluster, so we're going to chain 1 and do another cluster. Now we're in a corner, right? So in a corner, we need to chain 3, and then we do another cluster. Now, if you haven't figured it out already, anytime you hit a corner in a granny square, you're going to be doing a cluster and a cluster with another set of chains to create the corner. So yes, it's 3 double crochets cluster, but you're going to do a 3 double crochet cluster, chain 3, 3 double crochets. That creates your corner. You could do it with single crochets. You could do it with, again, how many you do kind of is dependent on what kind of granny square it is and what you have decided to use in terms of the number of chains for your corner, in terms of the number of rows you have, that kind of thing. It kind of all determines what size to use. And the one I made previously that you saw in the blue, gray, and brown, I decided to use 3, so I'm using 3 here. And then you chain 1, and we're going to do another cluster of double crochets. Just like that. And then we're going to chain 3. And then we are going to do a cluster here. So just to let you know, if you're reading a pattern, sometimes you will see it say a double crochet cluster, and they'll probably abbreviate it to DCCL-CL. Sometimes they'll just say do 3 double crochets, or you'll have a 3, a D, and a C together. And that just means do 3 double crochets. The chain abbreviation is CH, and that's what you'll usually see. You'll see it as CH. So like for this corner, you would see it say CH3 with the number 3. So, and I will hopefully be able to put that up in writing up here, so you guys can see it at the appropriate time. But it would be chain 3. So like if you were to read this corner, it would be 3 double crochet, chain 3, 3 double crochet. And then it would say chain 1 or CH1, and then it would say 3, the number 3, and then DC. So you 3 double crochet. Now we are back to the beginning corner. So that first set of double crochet the clusters that we did, the 3 here, that was into that first chain right there, this counts as your first one in this corner. So now you've made your second one. So you're going to chain 3 and you're going to slip stitch into the top of that chain 3, pull tight. Now here you're going to do a little something different because we're going to change colors. And some people are going to say I'm teaching to elite just for a basic granny square, but because I want to teach you how to do a standing double crochet in the start of the next row, but we're going to change colors. And this color change is not going to be the color change that some people do. But I want you to come over here, cut off. I really need to sharpen these. I've used them too much. Yarn dulls scissors, y'all. So I cut off the yarn. As you can see, got the little piece right here. I yarn it over. I pull it all the way through, pull tight. That's called fasten off. Now, to anchor it, you'll see a lot of us do this. We do another knot on top and try to get it as close to that knot as possible. You know, sometimes you do get at that, sometimes you don't. Now, depending on who you are, you can either start in this corner again for your next color change, or I personally like to, oops, sorry, I did not mean to bump you guys on my mic, but I like to go over to the next corner when I'm starting a new color, when I'm going to make a standing double crochet. It's just something that I personally prefer. So we're going to grab our white yarn. We're going to unfasten it to where we got the pull. I'm going to go around. Again, you're going to make that loop. You're going to go through, pull, tight. There you go. Now you're going to take your hook, go into that, pull it tight so you've got the loop on the hook. Now, to make a standing double crochet, you yarn over, you hold it in place with your thumb. Trust me, you'll thank me later. You're going to go put the hook into the hole of the corner. You're going to yarn over. Now keep that anchored. Pull your hook through with that yarn over. Then move your thumb to holding the little piece here. I hope you guys can see that, the little piece of yarn. Hold it, because again, you're trying to keep this anchored, right? And sometimes you can even use your left hand if you're a right-handed crocheter to do that. But you're going to pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the next 2, and now you have a standing double crochet. And I like doing this because I feel like it makes cleaner color changes when you're doing a granny square like this. So now we're going to do 2 more double crochets. And y'all, the hair loss with this stupid chronic illness is real. Um, but then you do 2 more double crochets and you've got your cluster. Now you chain, because again, we're going to go over a cluster. You're going to chain 1. And now we're going to go into this middle chain 1 space. And that is what this is called. This is called a chain 1 space that we created in the previous row. So you're going to go into that space, chain, and you're going to double crochet 3. And you're going to chain 1, and then you're going to do, because we're going over a cluster, so you chain 1, and then you do 3 more double crochet because we're in a corner now. Then you're going to chain 3 because this is the corner. And we're creating the corner with our chain 3. And you're going to 3 double crochet in the same space as your previous cluster. This would be called a chain 3 space. Anytime you have a space, that's usually where you've done a chain over previous and skipped previous double crochets or stitches. So that will become important when we do the next type of square. So here we've got our 3. Now we've got a cluster, so we're going to chain 1, 3 double crochet, if it will pull through correctly. And sometimes that happens, y'all. It just does. You get to go into speed and then you feel a little bit of a road bump, but it happens. And if you need to go undo something, that's what we call frogging. Good thing with crochet, you just pull this little piece and it'll undo it if you don't have your hook there to stop it. Now you chain one, and we do, because we're going over a cluster, and we chain three, or three double crochet, sorry, not chain. In the chain three space, we three double crochet. And we chain three because we're now in a corner. Now, I will say something about working with white or black yarn. Make sure you do it in a well-lighted space, y'all. Yarn, especially white and black, can be really difficult on your eyes if you don't have good lighting. I know some people use neck lights. I do have one of those sometimes when I'm doing regular crocheting and I'm not filming myself crocheting. Because it does help you have better sight on the stitches of what you're doing and any counting you need to do. But white and black yarn, like white and black tatting string, can cause your eyes strain and problems, and it can make you go blind. It's important to make sure you keep your sight. And so, it definitely helps that I have my little ring light here that we're using to help me film. But if you are doing crochet, but if you don't have that, I definitely recommend getting a neck light. They work wonderfully. You can use whatever one floats your boat. I also recommend making sure you're in a well-lighted space when you're using white and black yarn, because again, your eyes have a hard time focusing on it and you can cause strain, which over time can cause loss of sight. It happened to a lot of the lace makers back in the early 1800s, in the 18 and 1900s. It's why we know that for a fact. So be careful with your sight, y'all. So you chain one, go into the chain one space and three double crochet. We also, oh, by the way, because of that, if anyone ever makes you something with black or white yarn, especially if it's like the main component, understand that person loves you dearly, loves you to the moon and back, loves you to high heavens, and they deserve all the praise. I don't care what you think about the piece. The fact that they made you white something with white or black yarn means they absolutely love you, because any person who uses white or black yarn as the main component of something that they're doing is risking their health. They love you. So you chain three again in this final corner and slip stitch to the top of the standing double crochet. Next, this is like the last one, we chain three. We're going to create our first cluster here by going into, and here we go, making one that is hard to see, into the chain and into the standing double crochet, pull through, double crochet, yarn over, push through the two chains, or the chain in the top of the double crochet, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. Now we've got our first cluster, and after that it's just like we did on the previous row, except in this one we have three clusters per side. This one we will end up with five. So 1, 2, 3, or we'll end up with 4, sorry. You will go into the chain one space, three double crochets, like right here, and then you're going to chain one, and you're going to three double crochets, three. So 1, 2, 3, and we're about to make the fourth because we're in chain one. Go into the chain three space, do our three clusters, chain 3. Now on this, I am going to continue on around it, but I am going to do it a little bit fast because I'm going to use a time lapse here, just to speed up the process for y'all in watching this. And I will meet you back around when I hit here. Ooh, and I totally. All right, guys, I'm back, and here we are in the corner of the second row, and you're going to chain 3 to close off the corner. And just like before, you're going to, here's the chain 3 that you pulled up. You're going to go into that chain at the top of the stitch, and you're going to yarn over and pull through both, and there you go. So now we've got the end of row 2 of the white, or end of row 4 all together. So you're going to come over here, you're going to snip your yarn, you're going to yarn over, and you're going to fasten off. Fasten off just means to close that up, just like we talked about at the end of the orange row. And normally when you fasten off, it says fasten off, weave in ends. Y'all, I'm of the belief with a granny square, you have the right to wait till the end to just do that headache all at once. Again, I absolutely abhor weaving in ends. I don't know anybody who likes it. But weaving in the ends is kind of like the final thing. And so uh, I like to go ahead and wash my blankets and do all the things before I weave in my ends. So yes, it'll kind of look like this. And yes, it might get annoying for some people, but honestly, I would just rather wait and have one uniform time to weave in my ends. And so for me, I'm going to wait. Now, sometimes when I'm doing the yarn, I will put my yarn in the bag like this and put it on the floor because that bag is really good at keeping it in place. You don't need a fancy yarn bowl unless you really want one. They're cool, but you don't have to have them. Those bags work just as well because they kind of stay in place once you get started. So going back, and that's how you undo it, by the way. You hold this piece and you go poop, and it goes right out. But you yarn over, pull through. There we got our little loop. You pull on this, and you've got your first loop. You yarn over, you're going to hold it in place because we're going to make another standing double crochet. And like before, where we went over one corner to start the white row, we're going to go over one corner to start the last orange row. So you yarn over on your hook, hold it in place to kind of keep the tension and keep it square. Go into this first corner. You yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through two, pull through two, and you have your first standing double crochet. Now you're going to make 2 more double crochets. Yarn over, and you're going to essentially do the same pattern that you've done in the last 2 for the next 2 rows. So, which is to put a 3 double crochet cluster in the center of the chain 1 space, then chain 1 over the next cluster, and then do your next cluster. And then when you get to your corners, you're going to do 3 double crochet, chain 3, 3 double crochet. Like I said, it's just a repeat pattern. So I'm going to meet you when it's time to fasten this off. All right. I'll see you guys on the flip side. Hey y'all, so I'm coming back on a little bit early because I just realized I hadn't really talked about this. And so I want to show you something. So when you get to a place where you have your end that you've maybe not woven in yet, and it may be bothering you as you're trying to crochet, it's really good to like just hold it. hold it as you would hold it with the work in progress, and it just keeps it out of your way and allows you to get it done. Sometimes I hold it inside of the stitches I'm doing this way so that I kind of work it in as I go, but that is something you can do. So like for example, you can do this. See where I've gone over it and this into the chain one space? And then now it just kind of gets worked in naturally, and I only have to like really work in a little bit of it when I like this little piece when the time comes. It's just a way to handle it. Again, because this is a really long piece and it was annoying, you can hold it like this and you can go over both and you can just crochet it in. Now, it won't be in this part, but at least it is covered and you're not having to weave that one in later down the road. Because again, we weave in the ends, but we hate it, as my favorite meme says, which you guys will see later when we get to the weaving in of the ends. All right, so then you go ahead, do your last cluster here, and you chain one, and I'm not going to go back to the time lapse because, you know, I showed you there. You go to the corner, double crochet, chain three, and you're going to slip stitch into the top of the standing double crochet. Now you slip stitch into here and you pull through. Now you chain three, 1, 2, 3, and you basically do what we've done on every row since. You 2 double crochet into this first stitch, into the same stitch. 1, there it goes. See, even me, who's done this for 20 years, will have times where you get a little frustrated with that first stitch because it's kind of tight, and I tend to crochet a little bit tight, but there you go. Tension is not a problem with me. I tend to be great at tension, which is just how tight you hold your string and how tight your stitches are. And then you do the same thing you've done for the others. And because of that, I will see you when we're back to this corner. All right, guys, so we're back one more time for this particular granny square because we're going to finish it off together. So we're down to the last corner. We're going to do 3 double crochets into this corner. And then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Got to pull some yarn off of the orange because, you know, it was a little tight. We're going to slip stitch into the top chain of that row. Now we've got this. We're going to come over here. We're going to snippity snip. We're going to yarn over and pull through. And we have our first, of course I would knock the camera after all that. Now we've got our first granny square that has 2 color changes, if you will. In the other blanket, it was usually a blue or brown center, 2 rows. Then it was either a gray or kind of the creamy brown, what I call the latte brown. I think it's Caffe Latte. I'll have the actual color in the thing that has some blues and brown specks. And then it was the other color, whether it was blue or brown. In this one, I'm doing an orange and white. So we're doing orange center, white in the center, or in the 2 middle lanes, and then we're doing orange around this. Then what we're going to do in the next one is in the solid ones, we're going to do white, orange, and then white. And I will be showing you that in the next portion of this video. And we're going to checkerboard it. And then we will come in and we will attach everything with this, the big black yarn. So this is our first granny square. Now again, like I said, I am not going to weave in the ends until after I wash it, once it's all attached in one big blanket. That said, I am actually going to block my granny squares for this blanket. I didn't for the previous blanket. I do believe in blocking granny squares of all kinds. I used to not believe in blocking granny squares. That was something I was like, why would you do that? That makes no sense. Then I blocked them. Then I figured out why we do that. Highly recommend now. It is definitely worth it, and I highly recommend doing it. So we're going to go take this one and block it real quick and give you a little bit of understanding of that. And I am going to take you with me as we walk through my house to where I keep in my bunker my blocking system. And it doesn't have as great of a light, but it's what we're going to do. So let me see if I can get this thing to turn around. It's not going to do it, so let me stop. And we are back with me on this side. So I've picked up my granny square, and we are going to go through a little walk, and I'm going to try to not trip over all my works in progress and bags because I've totally been organizing my multiple different projects, as I've told you before. And we're going to come into the literal bunker in my house because it was made in the 1960s. And I'm going to sit down here on the floor where my blocking mats are, and I'm going to turn you around, and we'll go from there. So here we are. These are my blocking mats, and I kind of keep them in our bunker. Now, you're seeing a little bit of the squares that I'm going to be showing you how to do, that I use for my granny square sweater that I make. But right now, we're going to focus on Mr. Orange over here, orange and white. We're going to come over here and block, and what you do to block is you just take your pins that come with your blocking boards and you stretch out your square. Now, I personally like going corner to corner to stretch out my squares, and then I go middle pieces of each side. So you can kind of see I'm going corner to corner, and I kind of stretch it out. Yeah, that feels about right. And then I go into like the center piece, and I pull that stretched out. And we're going to do that over here with the center one, which is right here. Kind of bring it to here. Then we're going to bring this one and go to here, and this one and go to here. Now, depending on what it feels like, I may do more or I may do less, depending on what each square feels like. But right now, I think I want to leave that one like it is. And that's what blocking is. You can leave them as long as you want. I personally try to leave them for 24 hours or overnight before I have to put them all together and use them in whatever way I'm going to. But you can do it as little as an hour. It just depends on what you want to do. Again, it's personal preference, but blocking is definitely worth it, guys, because it does make your blanket look a lot smoother on the front end. It's just personal preference. You don't have to. Now, I will say when it comes to these, when we get to this and what we're going to do with these, absolutely, you need to block on these because you're going to be making a sweater. And if you want it to hang right, you need to block. But again, you can do personal preference and not block and have it be a little weird. But this is just something that I used to not do, and now I do pretty routinely because I've seen the benefit of blocking my squares. And that ends this portion of this granny square, and I will come back to you as we start to do what I call the solid granny square. I hope you have a good day, and yeah, we'll start in the next one.